Well, it looks like they blew the call a little bit. Granted, it's still snowing. It's supposed to be snowing until like 2 o'clock, but everything's a little slippery and slidey, as evidenced by me sliding on things, but should still be perfectly feasible to get to work and get places. Hello all. I know it's weird and super dark in here, and also just because I have lights pointed directly at my face for once rather than elsewhere, I guess. Whatever. So, what's going on, you might be asking? Well, because you saw that I did a clip this morning, right, showing all the snow, yeah. I don't know, to say the very least the snow was bad. I think that pretty much goes without saying. There's a couple of people who actually tried to get up that hill out front of their house. They kind of did it. It was very, very difficult on the cars. Because they were a lot of the people I saw at least, were driving really, really tiny cars. Obviously makes traveling quite a bit difficult. Obviously my commute to work was fairly easy. Sarah made it to work okay. Because the issues really weren't getting to, it was actually getting from. We both decided to leave around 2 or whatever. I was going to catch the 2:13, I think it is. I need to stay in focus range because I have this off. I was going to catch the 2:13 R6, which wound up coming about a half an hour late to begin with, but also because the switches were so frozen that they had to make it come in on the other side. So we were on the outbound side and they had to make it come in on the inbound side for quite a few stations until we actually got to, I think Ivy Ridge was the first station that was on its regular side, and then one after that. So I was fine, but of course that all takes time. But yeah, so I wound up making it back to Center City. She's kind of fine because the outlet at that point is underground. We actually wound up hopping over to Suburban Station because Suburban Station, sometimes they are today, turning trains around at Suburban Station because there's the extra tracks at Suburban. So they'll turn the trains around and go about the other way. So I just want to be like, I need to make sure we're not missing any of these. So headed over to Suburban. It didn't really matter because we caught the next one that was through anyway. But either way, when we were heading over to Suburban, we actually caught an R2. The conductors were saying both an express and a local at the same time, and if you're wondering how that can be, well, it's actually because right before we got off, they actually literally disconnected the train cars and separated the train, so this part of the car that was in front was actually the express train, and what was behind was the local, which was actually really, really interesting and really, really weird because I've never seen them do that before. But just because it was so crazy today that SEPTA really was trying their best, but also they really have absolutely. I'm gonna turn it out so we'll see how it does, but they really have no idea. Well, they knew what they were doing, but they were just working really, really hard to make it work because things are late, to put it bluntly. I mean, let's look at our lovely little website here. So out of all of the trains, 12 out of the 25 of them are late. That's just what it is right now. And to make matters worse for tomorrow, everything is basically already decided, even though it's just barely after midnight, that tomorrow is going to be another snow day. The government's closed, Drexel's closed. SEPTA has decided that they're running a weekend schedule for tomorrow. And that's the thing that's really going to screw me up, because of course there's no convenient way to do that, and there's a grand total of 3 trains that come during the normal rush hour time. So what does that mean for me tomorrow? You might be asking, and the answer is simply that I have no idea. Am I going to go in? Who knows? Am I going to try? Maybe. Well, probably. But regardless, I'm not going in on that first one in. That would be a disaster. I'm going to go to bed for now. We'll wake up tomorrow and we'll figure it out, I guess then. But for the moment, everything's just kind of screwed up. I didn't cut yet. Did you guys hear that? Giant gust of wind just hit the house. Which is another important thing, is people are blowing, for the most part, blowing this for here way out of proportion. Because yes, for the south, this is a lot of snow. For here, this is, I don't know, one of the mid to higher end storms for Philly. Because honestly, the trains weren't that bad. Because for SIPTA to only have one of the lines suspended for a short period of time, but something that really was out of its control, i.e. a car slamming into one of the trains because they didn't decide to stop it in time, that's not a terrible place for SIPTA to be, and they actually did manage to handle it pretty well, even though there's a lot of lateness across the board. But where am I going with this? As I was saying, that the weather is actually not that unusual for us, and people are blowing it way out of proportion. However, as I mentioned yesterday, the one thing that is unusual for us is for us to say this consistently cold. And what does that mean for, like, the rest of this week and the next week? I've got no idea. The weather is being consistently cold. And because it's so consistently cold, A, snow does not have a chance to melt, and B, yes, I'm using finger numbers to represent letters, it causes the potential for there to be more snow, because, normally there might be some snow followed by rain, which is not really good for the freezing either, but it means that now all of a sudden there's more snow. And I think there is more snow on the way in just a few days or so. What a lovely winter.